There we go. Got it. Oh, hey, we're live.
Did I start the screen?
Yep. Oh, no, you're not screen sharing it.
Okay, good. We get it together. Sorry, I'll have the screen share up in just a minute and we'll get going.
We're not technically people, don't mind us. No, I'm just joking.
Right, give a minute for people to get on. If anyone
Right.
wants to get on the Zoom, I guess send me a message. I could send a link. Right. So tonight we're gonna go over the kind of like the confirmations of tribulation, the timeline of prophecies and stuff that we've seen so far. Some of this I've already went through in another video, but we weren't recording and I had some sound issues when I did the screen record to re-upload it. So I kind of want to go over them things again and add to it. We can look at 1947 to 1948. 1947 was when the United Nations passed the resolution for Palestine to be partitioned between Arabs and Jews, allowing for the formation of the Jewish state of Israel. So that's when we would look to start that 70-year prophecy. Then that brings us to 2017. And then here we see it was December 6th when Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, which fulfills prophecy. We have this coin here, and then I'll show you the Bible verse that this comes from in a second. To fulfill 70 years, and then you can see the lion, and he charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. And this is like putting Trump as the Cyrus figure, which some people think that's a good thing, but it's more or less like him being the Antichrist figure, I guess. One of them, because there are multiple. Then we can go here, and I like this article. I don't agree with it 100%, but I like this portion right here is what I wanted to point to in Ezekiel 4:3-6. The prophet said the Jews who had lost control of their homeland would be punished for 430 years. This prophecy, according to the Bible scholar Grant Jeffrey, pinpointed the 1948 rebirth of Israel. Here's a summary of Jeffrey's theory. Ezekiel said the Jews were to be punished for 430 years because they had turned away from God. As a part of the punishment, the Jews lost control of their homeland to Babylon. Many Jews were taken captive to Babylon. Babylon was later conquered by Cyrus in 539 BC. Cyrus allowed the Jews to leave Babylon and to return to their homeland, but only a small number returned. The return had taken place sometime around 536 BC, about 70 years after Judah lost independence to Babylon. Because most of the exiles chose to stay in pagan Babylon rather than return to the Holy Land, the remaining 360 years of their punishment was multiplied by 7. The reason is explained in the Bible's book of Leviticus 26:18, 26:21, 26:24, and 26:28. It says that if the people did not repent while being punished, the punishment would be multiplied by 7. And by staying in pagan Babylon, most exiles were refusing to repent. So if you take the remaining 360 years of punishment and multiply by 7, you get 2,520 years. But Jeffrey says those years are based on ancient 360-day lunar calendar. And if those years are adjusted to the modern solar calendar, the result is 2,484 years. And there were exactly 2,800 or 484 years from 536 BC to 1948, which is the year that Israel regained independence. So that just shows you like how far you can go back to show how much prophecy lines up. If you want to look at this, you can Google WatchmanBibleStudy.com. It's the name of this article is 10 Prophecies Fulfilled in 1948. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's really a lot. And if I go through everything, we'll be here forever. And I just want to kind of show you so you can study on your own and confirm these things. But we'll go from there to look at this again. We're just going to look at the portion of the Revelation 12 sign in 2017.
I do not believe that we will know the exact day or hour. I do believe we are supposed to know the season and the signs. I find it interesting that in chapter 5 of 1 Thessalonians, Paul compares the second coming with labor pains of a woman. This study is centered around the sign in Revelation 12 of a pregnant woman giving birth. As this study is about Revelation chapter 12, you may want to read that chapter, if not all of Revelation, before continuing. There are a number of other videos about the first part of Revelation 12. At this time, none look past the events of 9/23/2017 and how the rest of the chapter and other chapters unfold in the heavens. To make it easier to see what is happening in the stars, the size of various planets and minor planets have been greatly increased. None of them are to scale. The minor planets are increased in size millions of times more than a planet like Jupiter. Also, there is a date and time window in either the upper or lower right corner. You may remember from part 1 that Jupiter is called the king planet. On 11/20/2016, Jupiter entered the body of Virgo. Normal human gestation is between 40 and 42 weeks. 42 weeks after entering Virgo, Jupiter will cross the hit line on 9/9/2017. Yom Teruah, or the Feast of Trumpets, takes place about 2 weeks later, around 9/21. On 9/23/2017, the Revelation 12 alignment takes place. And a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman was clothed with the sun, and the moon was at her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. And she was pregnant, and she cried out and was in labor. She was also in anguish to give birth. This is the only time since the book of Revelation was written that this alignment takes place. And looking forward about 1,000 years, I have not found it happening again. Let's look at the next verse. And another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great fiery dragon that has 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon its heads 7 diadems. The following images are from Google Sky. These are infrared images from NASA. The black stripes are due to a curved image being flattened, like on world maps. The exception is a small rectangular area in the constellation Virgo. This small area was at one time visible to the public. It has since been blocked out by NASA for unknown reasons. The blocked area is here in the lower part of Virgo. Here is a picture of the area captured before NASA blocked it. Some people see the head of a fiery dragon in this image. Up to this point, everything that's been presented can be found on many other videos. Now,
All right, so I don't agree completely with the rest of what he says on the other signs, but there are some things that do align in what he says, and it helps you get an idea of how to look at the signs in the skies and what to watch for. So I do suggest watching that guy's video, and the channel on YouTube is Hebrew Revelation. And this is the series Hebrew Astronomy and Revelation. So that's a good series to look at.
You want to scroll down and show the name of whoever posted that video so they can know that?
Yeah. Yep. It's right there.
Oh, that's literally Hebrew. Okay,
Hebrew,
gotcha.
Hebrew Revelation is the name of the channel. And then this is the series. And there's not a whole lot on that channel. There's only a few videos, and the guy posted it before any of these things happened. So he was looking at it like ahead of time and just kind of making some guesses, and some things he guessed were really spot on, and other things were like, you could probably make some changes in there as you're watching it and make it make sense. I actually sat down and wrote down all the dates and was watching them, and it was very helpful, and going through it and him showing different planets and giving a little bit of insight and showing like where to look to understand what certain alignments could mean biblically, like how to use the Bible to understand it and stuff like that. It's a good place to start for the signs in the skies and stuff like that.
Might actually have to watch that.
Yeah, it's a really good
Some of those.
series. There's actually, here, I'll click on it so you can see the complete series here. So playlist. So there's 2 playlists here. Stellarium, that's the app that I use to look at the signs and stuff. You can go forward and backwards with a date and check a lot of different things on there. And then that is a 4-part series on different signs. All right, and then we have these eclipse. Oh, all right. We have these eclipse, the 2017 and 2024, and they make an X over the United States, which in my opinion is Babylon.
We had one more, didn't we, that created the Olive Tav?
The third one directly in the center.
Yeah. I don't know if it was directly in the center, but it created the olive, I can't say it probably, the Olive Tav.
I didn't know that it made that, but if you can show like a picture of that, if you could bring it up, that would be cool, because I didn't see that.
Would have to figure out where it came
But I have
from.
this,
Yeah,
and
there's a
this
third
it
one.
might be this other eclipse that I'm about to pull up. And
Maybe.
if it is the other one, that would be super interesting. So I'll keep going, and if it is,
Okay.
then we might be able to make it. I don't know. Hold on. All right, so this article is someone I just found was talking about these 3 eclipses, because there's the 2 that make the X over so a few weeks ago I wrote about the 2 solar eclipses 7 years apart, whose trajectories are forming across at Carbondale, Illinois. And this, she wrote this on 11/17/2020, or I don't know. So we're directly in the middle of these 2 eclipses on December 14th, 2020. There's a 3rd eclipse in southern Chile and Argentina. There are 2,422 days between the 2 main eclipses, and the midpoint is 1,212 days. I thought it was 11, but I don't know. I think it's 11. Anyways, from 2017 24 is the number of priesthood, and 22 is the number of the sons of light, and 12 is the number of divine government. I don't know what this person is getting at, but I'm just trying to look at these dates here. So they said predicted some sort of event to do with government. I kind of look at the Revelation 12 and those verses in relation to this too. It kind of goes together. But if we look at December 14th, we see that was the day that the election was certified in favor of Biden. So this is like Trump losing his power. I forget what Bible verse it was, but there's a Bible verse about the Antichrist having a wound to his right arm and his eye being darkened. I found an interpretation of that talks about how that means him being revealed as evil and losing power.
Right. So we see that in the physical and the spiritual. So we saw it physically happen, and then we see it spiritually as well. It's always both sides.
Yeah. So we see this we see this losing power, and then we see this here that with him doing Operation Warp Speed and seeing what this thing is, when it came out that day. I don't want to say too much about it, but we'll move on now. You can connect the dots. I just don't want to stay there too long. Do you have anything to add?
Just really quick, without actually saying the words, there was a woman.
Can you speak like clearer into the mic, because I can't hear you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I have. Oh, is this better?
Yep, you're better.
Okay. I was just gonna say, like, without saying the words, we have that woman during the trials who actually took it, and then immediately afterwards said that God had died. I can't remember exactly how she put it. She said God was gone, like he left her body or something to that extent. Like she knew what happened when she took it.
Yeah.
And it was immediate. Like she knew God was removed from her when she took it. And considering what it actually does, it makes sense because it destroys the VMAT2 gene, which is what they call, very literally, they call it the God gene. And then it also, it uses CRISPR technology. And I'm going to try to say this clear and hope you get it, but CRYSPR. And I highly recommend everybody pull that up because the company, I don't even want to say the names. That's the hard part, just because I don't want to get like docked for anything. But the company, one of the main ones, not the P1, but the M1, that company on their website actually says that they use this CRISPR technology. It's so when you go and research it on YouTube, I might be able to pull it up later, but literally it shows you what it does is it goes in and it cuts out a portion of your DNA. It takes a strand that is supposedly quote unquote injured. This was the whole goal of it to begin with when they first created it, like before even considering it with this new thing. That the whole idea of it was to basically fix genetic disorders by erasing that strand, and then it rewrites the code basically, and it places in whatever that person, the doctor or whoever, whatever they created in that thing, it replaces that strand with whatever they give it. So it cuts out, and there's theories. I haven't found a lot, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. But there's a theory about why HWH being cut out, but that's something we can't prove. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I can share some of that at a later point. I know exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, if you want, you can show that stuff that kind of falls within that 1948 to 2017 timeline, because it kind of goes with the idea of the DNA being changed and what I'm going to get into later on. So if you want to show that.
Oop, not that one. I got to get rid of my buttons before I can even hit things correctly. Okay, so were you talking about where'd it go?
Like the NASA and stuff?
Yeah, I literally just, okay, well, first of all, I have to pull it back up. I somehow got logged out. Oh, great, and it's showing that. Go away. And my computer's not working, of course.
All right, if you want, you can just switch back and I can keep going until you figure it out.
Yeah, I will just say really quick and then I'll go back to it. But yeah, basically, it is the 40s. We have multiple, yeah, it's not gonna come up. My computer froze. But yeah, essentially, we'll just start with July 29, 1958. So everything, all of this stuff happened after World War II. So basically, in the early 50s, before the 50s, they were teaching flat Earth. That was what everybody knew, and I know that's hard to accept. Most people look at you and be like, "Oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about." And unfortunately, mainstream media, mainstream science are the only ones who actually make those claims that supposedly we've known about the shape of the Earth for thousands of years. But no, what it's actually, we have tons and tons of pictures of ancient civilizations with the flat Earth as exactly as the biblical illustration should look. What the story you get from Genesis, really. And then World War II happens, and then we take on NASA. Well, we don't have NASA yet, but we take on the Nazi soldiers essentially. So we quote unquote defeat, which I mean we kind of defeated them. I get that, but there's a whole other story I'll go on another spiel on later. But this is the time frame that it happens. You get World War II. You get, after that we take Nazi scientists on. Wernher von Braun is one of the biggest people. He's not the founder. I believe it was Eisenhower. Yeah, Eisenhower was the founder of NASA. But technically speaking, all the people that were funding it was Wernher von Braun, Walt Disney, and there were two other names that I can't come up with, but essentially, and then let me go get out of that. And if I get it back up, I'll let you know. Because yeah, my computer definitely froze for whatever reason. All right, so there's that.
Okay, so you want me to go back into the other timeline stuff? Because at the end of the timeline, I'm gonna show some of the Guardians of the Space Force and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll just have, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's starting to work. It's just taking a minute. I got a bad computer. I'll upgrade contacts time. Oh, actually, I just got it. You want me to do it? It's up to you.
If you want to, yeah, go ahead. Pull back up and we'll show that, because there's just a few things within that time period when Israel was reestablished and the time that the Revelation 12 sign had happened, and you can see it's like things that would be related to like the fallen angels.
Right.
And even if you watch like American Horror Story, this last season, just the last few episodes, I know, like, not to watch it necessarily for entertainment, but I watch it because I like to watch certain things for predictive programming, and that one seemed to like go back to this time frame and show how they like made deals with like aliens, which are fallen angels, and it kind of showed like a lot of things. They just are putting everything out there for you, and we're gonna show a lot of that. But
yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah,
I wish I don't pay for anything, so I'm like, nah. But I know I totally get that, because I don't know how many times I wanted to get on and watch things, and I'm just like, I don't have any subscriptions. Like, I really want to watch it because I know they're telling the truth on a lot of these things, but I'll get clips here and there. But basically, I don't know if a lot of people have seen this, but this is basically the breakdown of what happened in the timeline, when NASA's founded, all that stuff. So the first thing you have is Operation High Jump, 1946. This actually happened shortly after, I forget the guy's name. There was an explorer, researcher, cartographer. I mean, he was quite a few different things, but essentially his goal was to circumnavigate Antarctica. So he went out there and he tried to do it. And if you look at the globe, it looks like, oh, he didn't circumnavigate, or he I don't know. If you look at the globe, it's kind of weird. It's tricky. It really doesn't make sense if you follow the lines. It's like all over the place and kind of weird. But when you put it on the flat Earth map, the Gleason's, I think it was like 1952, something like that, the map from Gleason in 1950s, which was before they changed it. We actually used that map, and they used it for military flights and everything like that. That was what we knew, and we actually still do it today, but that's besides the point. So Operation High Jump happened after he basically went over 60,000 miles attempting to circumnavigate the Antarctica. And unfortunately, he was unsuccessful. So we do on the Gleason's map have some of it actually mapped out, because he did map some of it out for us. However, we do not have all of it. So most of what we have is actually closer to like, I believe we have some kind of near Australia, a little bit below Africa and some other places. But so Operation High Jump basically happens after they figure all this stuff out. And in the Britannica Encyclopedia, we actually have the firmament measured. Surprisingly enough, it points it out, and it actually tells you at the edge of it how high it was, because they found it. And then obviously High Jump, the way I see that, they're shooting up rockets to see what's going on up there, trying to break the firmament, deep freeze, more operations in Antarctica. NASA's founded in 1948. After all this, the Antarctic Treaty happens in 1959, basically saying that nobody without prior permission is allowed to go to Antarctica. And yes, people can go to these little peninsulas. There are certain little, which if you look at this picture right here, if we take this out and turn it into the flat Earth map, there are actually little peninsulas that come out that you can get to that are actually like, it's not that bad, like weather-wise. And then over here in the, like the outer edge of it, the farther out you go, the less you're able to actually, like, you can't go. It's too cold. It's too harsh of an environment. Just, I don't know if I can't remember if it's like negative 80 degrees sometimes. It's ridiculous. It's cold over there because it doesn't get sun, because the sun circulates above you. But then Fishbowl, okay, yeah, so Fishbowl was the bombing of the firmament. I got a little messed up. I don't remember what High Jump was, but they sent a lot of bombs up and attempted to blow this thing up. And we have some footage, and if I can find it someday, we'll do a video on some of this stuff, but we have footage of them basically bombing it, and you can see the cloud hit something and curve down instead of going up like you would, like if you hit like ground and the bomb would go up. It did the exact opposite and coming down, because they hit an item up and then it comes down. And then we also have some of Elon Musk's rockets actually gliding across. I don't want to tell you the whole story because you're gonna think I'm crazy, but what it's gliding across is very telling when you actually look at the rocket after it exploded and left this really big blue thing. But then, of course, you have the Hollywood Theater Apollo 11 missions, which we'll be going over. I'm going to create a whole new channel for literally just videos that goes through their footage and break it apart, ISS, all that stuff. But yeah, that's the timeline. And all of this, as you can see, 1946 is not that long after World War II. It's like, I think it was 1941, 42 when it finally officially ended, because it started in like the late 30s, mid to late 30s. So literally everything happens after we quote discover this stuff, and it hides everything. And that's where we're at today. Like, we used to know the truth. We knew it before the 50s, and then this happened. So I'm good on that. That's my little spiel on that. I could go on for hours if you don't stop me.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things like in that timeline that you could look into that will fit as well. But I'm gonna go back to
there we go.
All right, this aligns with an eclipse that happened November 18th. This is talking about the Noahide laws, and I'll let you go into your own research on this, but this is not, this is Antichrist. This is the abomination that makes desolate. I'm going to play a short clip on a teaching for that, and I'll let you finish it on your own, but this shows that lunar eclipse that day. So this is just, you know, we can look at the signs in the skies. Also, right after that, we see the reenacting of the anointing the high priest to be held on last night of Hanukkah. And Jesus is our high priest, so this is, yeah, not good. They shouldn't be.
I was actually honestly expecting them to like announce something, but yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, and they're not showing the
But they did.
actual.
They did like officially. Did they officially reinstate no-hide laws, or were they saying they were going to? Did they have a date on that?
What?
Did they officially like reinstate no-hide laws, or were they just discussing it?
I don't know. I haven't dug too deep in it. I think it was more of like a discussion and something going on the
Yeah.
temple regarding it. But here, this is another thing where they started the anointing oil, and I don't think Leland is 100% right on his calendar, but I think he's very close, and he does a really good job at linking scripture with the timeline and showing how it all fits together. So I'm gonna play just a little bit of this video to talk about the abomination of desolation, because I do think that the thing is like a spiritual layer of it, but this is the literal of it, and it happens at a specific time in the tribulation, and he kind of breaks down how we see that. So I'm gonna go ahead and
of desolation. What does it mean when it says to give or begin the sanctuary? And what is the sanctuary fortress? These are scriptural descriptions in the last days of the most significant sign of the apocalypse, in the end of days, that there would be a third Jewish temple. When we think of the third Jewish temple, many of us think of images like this: architectural designs and layouts by the Temple Institute for the third temple. However, it is possible that once the prophecy is fulfilled, it does not look like this. It does not scripturally say this is what we would expect to see on the Temple Mount. We do expect to see something on the Temple Mount. We do expect to see a third Jewish temple, and that is what the prophecy says in the face of all the confusion and lies and misconceptions out there. Now, the prophecy has already happened where we have seen parts of the third temple built underground, including the Ezekiel chapter 8 assembly hall for the Sanhedrin and the Ezekiel dining hall that is described in the book of Ezekiel. Okay, so parts of the temple are already built. Prophecy has already been fulfilled. But what if it looks different than what we think, than what we anticipate? Instead of a big white building, it also says a tabernacle. Now, it must be that after 70 years that Israel is formed as a nation, these prophecies will come into fruition, that the Antichrist would make a peace deal with Israel. And that's what you see on this coin, the dove, for the third temple. So there will be something. It may not look like that, but it will happen, as the prophecy states. And this coin states clearly, he has charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. So the Antichrist made a peace deal with the United States and Israel to build a third temple. In the peace deal, it has a sharing arrangement with Saudi Arabia to take over. And that's why you've seen the ambassador to the United States, Steve Friedman, with the third temple. There you can see the third temple on that Temple Mount view. So there will be a third temple. What will it look like? What does the prophecy say? That's what we're going to look at in this video. Now Christ said in Matthew 24:15, when therefore you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, that's in the temple or the sanctuary, whosoever reads, let him understand. So this is the book of Daniel. We go to chapter 8, verse 13. I saw one saint speaking to another saint, and they said unto him, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice? When is the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary, and when is the host trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then the sanctuary is cleansed. Okay, so we have some questions here that we must understand. We find other answers in Daniel 12. And Daniel looked, and behold, there stood two one on this side of the river and the other on the other side of the river, and asked, how long shall be the end of these wonders? Now remember, he said, whosoever leads, let him understand. In Daniel 12:10, the wise understand. In verse 11, from the time of the daily sacrifice is taken away unto the abomination that makes desolate set up is 1,290 days. So we go back to Daniel 8:13. When is the transgression of desolation to give the sanctuary? When they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength and take away the daily sacrifice and place the abomination that makes desolate. Now let's look at this word, to pollute. Okay, it means to profane. Okay, it also can mean to begin, and mostly it's translated to begin. So we have the beginning of the sanctuary fortress. So look at this. When is the transgression of desolation? It's when you give the sanctuary, when they will begin the sanctuary fortress. So did you see it? The abomination of desolation is to give the sanctuary, when they will begin the sanctuary fortress. Okay, so important. So there's a giving of the sanctuary. There's a beginning of the sanctuary, and it must be on the fortress. It must be on the Temple Mount. So when will the third temple be built? It is when it is given, to give the sanctuary, to begin the sanctuary fortress. So there we can see clearly in the prophecy when the third temple will be built. But let's take a look at these prophecies, and let's look at them like scenes in a play. And let's look at those people involved, or saints involved. So you see two saints on either side of the river in Daniel chapter 8 and in Daniel chapter 12. We look at Daniel chapter 8. It says, I heard one saint speaking to one saint. That's what it looks, how it reads in the original Hebrew, to a certain Palmoni, which spake. So really there's three people here in Daniel chapter 8, which is the same thing we see in Daniel chapter 12, where it says, behold, there stood two, one on this side of the river, one on that side of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen. Okay, you got the two saints on either side of the river, and you have another one, which is this Palmoni, which we saw in chapter 8, which is the man clothed in white linen standing above the waters. Okay, so we have a similar scene in Daniel 8 as in Daniel 12. Very similar. We have two saints on either side of the river. Very significant. Now, the two saints ask these questions. How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, the abomination of desolation, and to give the sanctuary? So that's the building of the third temple and the host trodden underfoot, which is Revelation 19 and Armageddon. Okay, so these questions are posed to the saint, the one clothed in linen, also called Palmoni, and he answered in Daniel 8. He said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. Okay, so here he is clearly giving us the first answer to the questions posed. 2,300 days. Okay, and he answers in Daniel 12, from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination that makes desolate is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Okay, so Palmoni is the same one speaking in Daniel chapter 8 as in Daniel chapter 12.
You see that number again.
If you're wondering how to apply those days, you're looking at it here. These would show us the beginning of the tribulation and when the giving of the sanctuary would be.
All right, so I'm not going to keep playing the video because he goes more into it, but you can get the idea of it, and you can even go watch this video. It's Leland Jones, and that's the name of the video. That's his channel and the name of the video. And it goes in depth more with scripture, how he aligned these things. So November 10th was when he said this would happen, but I've checked his calendar and look at a bunch of different calendars because I'm really not sure which one's correct. But I think he might just be a couple days off, because this did happen right around this time, and some things happen within a day or two of when we'll see the count, just because the difference in calendars and us trying to figure all of that out, you know. So here we have this happened November 8th. This was written. So right around that time, they started to make the anointing oil that they ended up using I'm assuming, during the Hanukkah festival.
That is interesting though, because if they used it, that's actually against law. Because it's only allowed to be used on a high priest. You would have to use like a replica.
Yeah,
oil
I
that
think
isn't-
maybe they did. It's really weird how they did all that. It wasn't making a lot
Right.
of sense to me because of that and stuff too. But
But of course they're confused anyway. So
yeah. But yeah, we have this, and this is just another thing that fits within the timeline. And actually here it aligns. He shows how a little bit further in this how how we know it's in Daniel, but if you go through here, it'll tell you what year in Cyrus. That's how it talks, like by the kings. And we know that Trump is the Cyrus figure, so during the 4th year of Cyrus, and we really can look that Trump is almost still in power, even though he's not. He's the respected king of the land for now, even though Biden is technically in office. I don't know. All right, so we talked about that. And then, I brought this up. This is the Bible verse that goes with the coin. It's Ezra 1:2. Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. So,
and of course there is no physical, although there is going to be physical because there's physical and spiritual, but we are the temple. So him building a third temple in Jerusalem physically should be quite eye-opening. Seeing that there's not supposed to be another one built for like an actual one. The only other third temple that's talked about in the Bible is literally the Antichrist that builds it. So, and it's there. It's not exactly what it looks like, but I believe in Ezekiel when he
it
was talking
someone
about it, didn't he
finds
have to look underground to?
Yeah, someone finds it underground.
Yeah,
And
he looked in a rock to look underground to find the
yep,
temple.
and did you see in the video, it showed a little bit of clips of the underground temple.
Yeah, I had to step out for like 2 seconds, but I saw some of it. Did it show the part with the sea of glass and the 24 elder seats?
Yep, no, it showed a little bit of that real quick, but yeah, and that's all there. It's all built. So when people are like, "Where's the third temple?" It's there.
It is. Yeah,
And they've been doing sacrifices. You could even look further back. They've done sacrifices and things like that.
Yeah,
and then we have this
lamb sacrifice.
Yeah, and then we have the Abraham Accords, which I didn't bring it up, but the Abraham Accords were in the works long before, and depending on how you look at it, like I said, there's a 7-year tribulation period, but there's a 3.5-year great tribulation, and the Abraham Accords, I believe, were right in that 3.5 time frame. I don't know, I could be wrong. But if you look at the coin closely, it's like they're just telling you right in your face, pretty much. So you could look at this here and just the sword symbolism, and of course, Trump's signature.
Which do you know what that sword is, right?
What is it?
That shape of that sword is the type of sword that they used to use to behead Christians. I believe that was what time frame was that? That was like the Roman Catholic Church era. They actually no, it wasn't that. I don't know if I'm getting my dates wrong, but yeah, that sword is, I can't remember the name for it, but that's actually the one that they use, like that curved shape like that. Yeah,
We'll
they
have
used
to look into it and see if we can't find it at some point. But then you got all of the symbolism here, all the heart problems that have been happening since that thing. Transhumanism and 5G and these things here. And you could just we've talked about, like the whole nanotechnology, and they openly say that it's in there.
Yep.
some of the other symbolism here. I don't know. This could be something to do with La Palma, with that sun behind it, sun worship, the satellite and Wi-Fi, rocket, NASA deception, like she was just talking about, and the fallen angels, this dove representation of the Antichrist in Saturn, which we're going to go into the Star of Bethlehem that happened right around that time, that December 14 eclipse. I'll go back into that a little bit more. But we have this, Abraham Accords, and I think that was right around that time too, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then we have right around the time of the Star of Bethlehem is what they were calling it, and they were saying, oh, it's like telling us that Jesus is coming back to rapture us. Anyways, that wasn't an alignment that was good. We'll go into that in a second. I think I pulled an article up in a minute about that. But they named the U.S. Space Force members. I hate saying it's a joke. Oh my God, I feel so ridiculous. Like we're in the middle of like the Truman Show right now, for real.
Right.
So the Guardians, and that's in the book of Enoch. I think I pulled that up next. If I did this right. Yes. In the book of Enoch, only 200 Guardians descended to earth. Their leaders, who later became known as Lucifer. The Guardians had a very bright appearance, and one of their names is the Shining Ones. Enoch, while describing them, said it was difficult to look at the Guardians. They sparkled so brightly. All right, well, these are basically like the fallen angels and what we would call aliens, I guess, in the mainstream world today. The whole alien deception, a lot of people think it's going to be, they're going to use aliens to explain away the rapture, but I see a whole lot more in the opposite. Like we see people embracing aliens and they coming out, like the government working with them, and like Trump, I don't know, man.
There was a movie on it, but yeah, that's essentially what the movie pointed out. It was difficult for, I can't remember the name of it, but it introduced the aliens, and there was a group of people that were weary of the aliens, and then there was a group of people that fully accepted it and were in love with them. And they're like, obviously you would think those group of people that go out to Area 51 that are like, oh, please abduct me. So those people are obviously, a lot of people, that's the other thing with NASA and all this space stuff, they primed everybody for this.
Remember that raid Area 51? That was right around like all the time. There was a lot of really weird like stuff going on. That was really weird.
Right.
But anyways, all right, so we have this 2020 Christmas star and the rise of the Antichrist. So if you follow my other teachings on the feast and Christmas, you'll already know how I feel about Christmas and how it's evil. It just is. And if you notice when Trump is talking about Jesus, it's always to do with Christmas and emphasizing how he was our, like this Christmas savior, you know what I mean? So
and him putting the Christ back in Christmas.
Yeah, putting Christ back in Christmas. That's not what we should be doing. Christ was never in Christmas. It's about the Antichrist. So when he's talking about putting Christ in Christmas, he's talking about the Antichrist, which is like there's like people who will use Jesus and his grace and abuse it in a way, you know what I mean? It's not like we mess up and we try to do better. No, these people are just, oh, I'm saved by the blood of Christ and I can do whatever. Those are, that's like being drunk on the wine, drunk on the blood of Christ.
We also have to remember that every time Israel messed up, the only way they got back into God's favor was when they went back to law. Every single time.
Yep.
And of course, God never changes. Yahuwah never changes. He is,
Yeah.
was, and always will be. you can't change his mind. Like, he is who he is, and the word is the word, whether you like it or not.
Yep. And I'm just leaving this little bit up, so if you want to read about it, you can, but I'm skimming through it. It's you see as it's the winter solstice, some of what it has, and then you have the revelation sign in Jupiter. So he talks about that. All right. All right, so Saturn, a corruption of Revelation 12. So what did the planet Saturn represent in the December 21st sign? To answer that question, we need to go back to ancient history and mythology. Many myths in the culture and around the world seem to be corrupt versions of biblical accounts. A great example is the flood myth that are prevalent around the world in several ancient cultures that correlate with the story of Noah and the flood. In Roman and Greek mythology, Saturn was a god. Saturn was especially celebrated during the festival of Saturnalia each December. According to Roman mythology, Saturn who was the previous king of the gods, began to swallow the children he had with his wife when they were born. This was because he had been warned that one of his children would overthrow him. Saturn swallowed the children Neptune, Pluto, Ceres, Juno, and Vesta. When Ops realized that she was pregnant with Jupiter, she had the baby secretly and moved to Crete, giving a stone wrapped in baby clothes to Saturn for him to eat. Saturn believed he had eaten Jupiter, but Jupiter was saved. When this myth is compared to Revelation 12:3-6, there's a lot of similarity to what is told in the myth. And that's, the Revelation 12 sign that happened in 2017. That aligns with that myth. And that's kind of how I look through these signs. I will look at what they mean, and then you kind of just can get an interpretation. And some of these signs you can look up in the Bible. You could look up some of the planets, and it's talked about in scripture, and you'll get an idea of what they mean. Some of them like represent demons, some of them represent the church, some represent like hell. So you can get an idea of like what's going on, and not in like well, I'm gonna check my sign to see what's gonna happen in a personal way for me today, but compared to prophecy, you can read the Bible in the sky, and you can confirm where we are at in the Bible because we are living in it. So okay.
Did it for you.
Okay.
Sorry, I
actually had something to say there too, but I saw my rabbit literally come in the room. And then that. Anyway, that so that scripture that above there about the woman giving birth, that was actually pretty cool. It literally perfectly compares to it.
Yeah, and then this here talks about the timing and information of the stuff. I haven't looked too deep. I didn't read this full calculation. I just wanted to get into, because I had said that myself, that Star of Bethlehem was something more evil, and it wasn't. It was more like the Antichrist beginning his reign, and with that thing going around at that time, stuff like that.
Right.
At that time, I had guessed that he was gonna come back sooner. I still think he might come back, but I don't think he has to. I do think that it could be someone else that comes back. So.
Yeah, I can't remember if it says he regains. I kept trying to study it and figure it out, and I kept going back and forth. I'm like, he
there's
loses his
different
power,
parts of different beasts and stuff, and it's really hard to say.
Yeah. Which I
So
believe
this is-
Biden's one of it, because it was like Obama and then Trump and then Biden, because there's multiple beasts, but I think it's in the Daniel prophecy. I have a video that explains it well, I can link somewhere, but he explains that prophecy and the leaders and the beasts.
Yeah. So this, I don't know, really, it's in 2017, where the Sanhedrin started doing some of these rituals, and it all falls within in the 7-year period with these signs that we're seeing in the skies and stuff like that. And they're really they're watching these things too. They might not be publicizing it, but they're watching it, and that's how they're saying when their Messiah is coming. And when I switch the screen to you, I'll look up something. There's another thing I want to show. Hold on. Here is, I'm gonna go through these last few. Sanhedrin calls on Arabs to take their role in the third temple as prophesied by Isaiah 2018. Oh,
I did not see that one. Wow.
yeah, this is stuff I just found. And then they, this is in 2016, but they declared the year of the Jubilee. And I looked up through the article, and they don't say what the year they declared it, but I believe it's 2024 is the year of the Jubilee. And that's where we see that second eclipse come over the US to make that X over it. And I believe that's the year that Babylon falls in like 1 hour. I think we're going to see like another fulfillment of those feasts. So then we see Sanhedrin invites 70 nations to Hanukkah dedication of altar for the third temple. They did actually start doing like sacrifices and stuff too. And then they were stopped for coronavirus. So the stopping and starting, and I do believe that there's like layers, like I said, to all that. But I'm gonna stop the share, and I think you have a couple of things to add to this, Jennifer.
Yeah,
Okay.
got a few. Okay, let me get rid of this button. So we already kind of, actually we had that. Yeah, we talked about NASA, but here's one thing. This is so weird for me to get used to this box. So we have Space Force. We have Trump creating Space Force. And essentially what you'll notice about SpaceX, a lot of people think that Elon Musk and SpaceX is an independent company, and that's really how they advertise themselves. No, I don't want your ads. But essentially in 2008, they were actually going to completely fail. They were bankrupt. They were losing everything. There was nothing they could have done. So essentially what they did is they got help from the government. So they got money funneled. I believe it was first through the government, then through NASA, who approved whatever missions that SpaceX wanted to do. So SpaceX literally is run by NASA and the government at this point, and they have an unlimited money source, not because Elon Musk is rich and it's an independent company, but they have unlimited money because we have unlimited taxpayer dollars paying for this. And when Trump created Space Force, from then on, that funding from Space Force is now being funneled to NASA and then to a few other companies. There's SpaceX, but then there's a few other companies that are like doing cleanup in space and stuff like that, that is also getting funded by the government. But this is something that people don't realize. And then another fun thing is right here. Israel's ex-space boss, Trump, I don't know, was on the verge of revealing extraterrestrials' existence. Ooh, you gotta love my computer, right? Come on, buddy. Hold up. This page is popping up all sorts of stuff. So a former chief of the Israel Defense Ministry Space Directorate says that humans have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation, and that President Trump is aware of this and was previously on the verge of revealing extraterrestrials' existence. I'm not slaughtering those names. That person made the revelation in an interview published in Israel's newspaper Friday in Hebrew, parts of which were published in English by the Jerusalem Post on Tuesday. The unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here. Humanity is not ready. The 87-year-old former space security chief said, referring to the group of extraterrestrials as a galactic federation. I mean, I don't really need to go on a whole bunch in here, but I mean, we see the thing going on here. We see that the government was forced by Freedom of Information Act, I think it was, or a 40-year period where they weren't allowed to reveal something, and then it got requested, and then they had to release it. So they started releasing. Everybody was looking forward to them releasing. Oh, aliens are real. We knew it. And then of course the government just goes, oh, we know that there are UFOs, but we don't know what they are. So everybody was expecting a reveal at that point, but then of course the government just said, we admit that they're there, but we don't know what they are. They're essentially it's priming the human population for acceptance of these beings, because that's actually what a lot of people want. When you watch Star Wars, everybody wants to go up and fly in spacecraft and go fight and be like rulers. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they would fight evil, but we're not actually fighting evil. But anyway, I already lost track of where I was going with that, but I mean, it's, oh yeah, and then of course, on top of that, when you look at the media after the fact that they released that, they kind of showed a few videos of quote unquote UFOs. And funny thing is, I've actually seen a lot of videos of these objects that look like UFOs actually traveling on military equipment, going on convoys. And you have these like really massive, strange machines going over that look exactly like UFOs, and you're just like, why does the government have that? And what on earth are they doing driving through towns with that on the back of their truck? Like, I don't get it, but okay. So it really is. It's just a matter of slowly getting you guys used to the idea. They got everybody to fall in love with space and all this crap that's just basically lies that they've been doing since the 50s, and then reinforcing it with Hollywood theater, which we actually have the director. I'm going to slaughter his name. I don't know, it's like Steven Kubrick. I can't say the name properly, but he's the director of Hollywood. He actually used a tape of his video that he wrote, or that he directed and he gave him. It took a little while to say it. And he said it in fewer words than that, but he did. He's like, he tried not to say it, but he was like, no, come on. It's like, what? And then of course we have people going to interview astronauts and showing them footage of them faking it, and then those astronauts attacking the guy that was interviewing them and threatening his life if he released the video, which of course he released the video. I don't know what happened to him to this day. I hope he's okay, but he did. He released it. And we get to see the astronauts punch him in the face and kick him in the butt and all sorts of things after he showed them this video. It's like, what's that? Like, I got this video. Like, of course they asked him where it is, but basically it's a charade, and I'll go into that a lot. But there's some other things that on the lines of Trump. Let's start this one first. So this says 2 years ago. I can't for the life of me. I want to say, do you recall when that was at all? Like, you know, slight time frame here that you think it was. I don't think it was 2 years ago, but I could be wrong. I have lost her. I am still on, right? Yeah, I am. Okay. Let me get rid of this button real quick, and then we'll play this. So essentially all this is just a cute little clip here. Leland Jones also just covered this in way greater depth, and I'm not going to go into it a whole lot right now, so I'll let you guys sit through. I highly recommend you go to Leland Jones and sit through his videos, because he has a lot. But oh, shoot. Now that I think about it, I have to take off my headphones. Hold on. I forgot the sound doesn't work like that. We'll play this.
So, the fake news, of which many of you are members, is trying to convince the public to have a recession. Let's have a recession. The United States is doing phenomenally well. But one thing I have to do is economically take on China. Because China has been ripping us off for many years. President Clinton, President Bush, and President Obama and others should have done this long.
Probably should have had this prepared ahead of time. Oh, there it is. There it is, right there.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So look, intellectual property theft. Add that to it. And add a lot of other things to it. So somebody, somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had.
Let me get my headphones back on because sounds better. Hold on. So just, yeah, let me make sure that's in real quick. So super quick thing I'm just going to say on this really is just, you see a lot of this from him. You see a lot of strange sayings and strange actions. So when he said that, I mean, you could certainly say that that's just a random occasion, and that's how most of this stuff is explained. It's just some random things that people do. Same thing with what people say with a lot of the signs that people in Hollywood and politicians do. The way they hold their fingers and the handshakes and all those Freemason things. He does a lot of those too. So when people sit here and call out these people for doing these things, but then they sit here and look at this guy and he does the exact same things, they go, oh, well, he's apparently the only one who just happens to be doing it, while everybody else who does it happens to be the bad guy. So there's a complete disconnect from people. They see, if they see anything, and most people actually don't even see him do these things, it misses your mind, because you're just, if I watch that whole 2 minutes and 52 seconds, never had seen it before, and just watch it through, I made a lot of fun. I've been looking away for like 2 seconds, but he turns and looks up and calls himself the chosen one. And that, I can't remember the date on that, and I don't know if Elena's got that, but we'll figure that out eventually.
I don't have the exact date on it. But,
yeah, do you have the year at all?
I think it's 2019, but if you look at Leland's teachings on this, he has, before that happened, he said that date that, the Antichrist would like make.
Yeah, he predicted it. Yes.
Yeah, like he predicted it.
Yeah.
And he said exactly the date. So I can share that another time.
Yeah, we'll get that at some point. And that's not the only prediction that Leland has actually successfully come across. He's been doing this for quite some time, and it's been over 10 years now that he started making these predictions. And so far, aside from maybe a day or two on some of them, he's usually right on.
Yeah,
So,
and I think the day or two, like I said, is just like a small mistake in the calendar. I don't even think it's like a serious. I think that we all look at certain things like how we do a lunar calendar, or the solar, lunar,
Right.
solar, whatever. There's just like a couple of days off on a lot of these calendars, and that's why we say it's just important to keep these things in the seasons and do your best, because I don't think we're meant to know. That's part of the no man knows the day or the hour, but we definitely know the season, and we know that our Father loves us enough that he told us where we need to be and when, so that these things don't fall on us. So we should really pay attention to that, because there's of course we have holidays, we have fun for these holidays, and we have fun during the feast. They're actually very fun, and they're more time, but they're also practical. Like they're there for us,
Yeah, and they're biblical. Right. But yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Brain fart. Oh yeah, and that, yeah, I was just gonna confirm. Like, yeah, God's not going to do something to you without giving you a warning. He's not just gonna suddenly come on you and be like, bam, everyone's gone. He's gonna tell you. He's a father.
Yeah, and not just that, that when he said I'm the chosen one, he actually made that retweet of that one guy, and there was someone
Yes.
that spoke on it about him being like the second coming of God. So
Yep,
I want to confirmed, and I want to say it was in the same day. So I don't know.
Twitter, second coming. Last time I looked this up, I was able to find it pretty quick, so I was just gonna try it real quick. Yeah, here we go. I was like, last time it was extremely easy to find. So, like I said, earlier I was telling Elena, I was like, you know, the funny thing is, like, if you try to find something negative on Trump, it's so easy to find. You're gonna find it, and it's like, it's that brain manipulation to make you think that everyone's against him, so that everybody wants it. It's manipulation of your brain. They're going by your emotions, and you get mad when people talk bad about him because they love him so much, and they're not actually paying attention to anything he says. They only hear what they want to hear coming out of his mouth. But so, this is bad. But yeah, in his Twitter, I hope it actually shows the whole. This is a terrible article. Well, I was hoping to have the actual Twitter post. So no, oh wait, it is there. It's just not coming up. This is my computer. Okay. But yeah, that's what he didn't technically say it himself. What he did, yeah, like you said, he retweeted somebody else. I can't remember which Jewish like leader. I don't remember exactly. But they called him. They said he's like the king of Israel, the second coming of God. And obviously, a lot of people recognize he's not necessarily a Christian. He's the quote unquote freedom guy, the Republican. But people accept the fact that he may not necessarily be Christian, although he kind of claims it, but not quite. But honestly, why would you even post something like that? We all know that the Bible tells us this. That's blasphemy. And he just posts that, and like, especially it's just like smiles on his face, like, hey, like, yeah, this is me. Check me out. Look what they call me. It's so egotistical. The same way he treats women. The same way, and I know a lot of Republicans are like, oh, he just said, I don't even want to say it. Grab the you know what. And I'm like, you guys missed the whole first conversation about that though. When he said that, the P word and like grab that P, he was literally saying that women, he can go to any women if he wants, and he could do whatever he wants to them, even grab them by the you know what, and he'll be allowed to do it. That's vulgar. That's disturbing that nobody's bothered by that. And I'm like, yeah, guys are kind of gross, but I mean, hello. Yeah, that's why society's having a problem, because this is what's going on with men right now. But of course, Trump's a whole nother level. But anyway, so we did have one more. This one's a few minutes long, and I do want to play this because this is a very good example of what we're talking about with this man who says one thing, and then the moment he gets what he wants, which, well, it was planned anyway, so was the rigged, quote unquote, rigged election. All of this is planned constantly, but this just shows his character, and I've showed this to multiple people, and they either don't want to look at it, or they just say like it's the same thing as everything. Oh, it's just, I don't even know how they pass this one off. They pass it off, shut off like bleh, I can't talk. I have stutters sometimes, people. But yeah, let's go ahead and watch this real quick and kind of see where he goes from before elections to after. It's a very interesting little phenomenon.
It's a god.
Oh, I knew I was going to do this. Hold on a second. I knew I was going to forget to unplug. So make sure volume's up. All right, here we go.
Is what I have a very big problem with.
I will say this, Hillary Clinton has to go to jail, okay? She has to go to jail. I think she should be in jail for what she did with her emails, okay?
And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my attorney general to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation, because there has never been so many lies, so much.
You see that
deception.
666
There's never been
sign?
anything-
He always does that 666 with his fingers. Sorry. If you go back just like 10 seconds, you can see it.
Yep, there it is, right there. Yeah, he does that a lot. That's a very common.
He always does it in 3 times. Like he'll shake his hand 3 times when he does it, if you watch it carefully too. And he does it all the time. All the time.
To instruct my attorney general to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation.
Wow, I've never noticed that before. He did do it 3 times. I'm gonna have to start looking at all of them to see if they're all 3 times. But yeah, that's interesting. But by the way, I want to mention something. Hopefully you can still hear me at this point. But Trump, so I obviously people don't know me. I'm just someone on a video, but I studied psychology. And I've been studying human behavior and lies, like facial expressions and body movements and everything for over a decade now. And there's something interesting about Trump that I just he's probably the best actor I've ever seen. And it's like strange how good he is, because I can typically spot a liar and I can't spot it with him. But Hillary, on the other hand, she phenomenal acting, but no, you can tell she's acting in some of this, but I'll keep playing.
Because there has never been so many lies, so much deception. There has never been anything like it. And we're going to have a special prosecutor because you know what? People their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
FYI, how did they get your emotions there? That's how all of it's done. It's emotions. Take someone's emotions and you can control them.
Introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
There he is, studying American political history.
Thank you very much. I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard fought campaign. I mean, she fought very hard. Hillary has worked very long and very hard over a long period of time. And we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country. Very sincerely.
I find it interesting at that point that the crowd is actually applauding to that, considering most crowds literally yell and chant, lock her up, but random comment.
Their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary.
And we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country.
That place straight before the audience.
Let me plug back in real quick. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So, I mean, that right there should have told someone everything. But unfortunately, it doesn't.
Get closer to the mic again. Sorry.
Sorry. I was gonna say that video right there should teach everything to someone. It's kind of, he's a typical politician. Whether you want to say he's a independent, like, businessman, he is who he is. And nobody goes over there. Nobody becomes president without being in on the crowd. His pastor was a Freemason, and he greatly praised that man. And anytime he's asked about God or asking for forgiveness, Trump literally tells them, I don't think like that. I move forward. I don't think I need forgiveness. Like, that's not how he lives. That's not how he that's not how he does things. I'm like, okay, so he wants to claim that he plays this Christian role, but not necessarily, like, he plays it as like a lower level, I don't know how you want to call it, but kind of claims it. And then you have all these people that stand around him, all these pastors that pray over him, and then these people claim that during his presidency he became a Christian, like a full-blown Christian during his presidency. But he won't even talk about God, and he says that he doesn't even need to. He avoided the questions as best he could, but he literally pointed out, couldn't even talk about God, and said he doesn't need forgiveness. How does that sound like a Christian to you? Not to mention when I think it was Barron Trump. Yeah, Barron Trump went to a Jewish temple. He literally said, "Oh, great, not another one of my children." Like, there's so many things that you can find on this man. And if you watch this whole video, let me scroll down so you can see it. Hold on. So there you go. There's posted it, and here's the title of it. And I highly recommend you watch that full 40 minutes because she breaks it down for you. You can't ignore this. I know everybody wants to, and they want. Oh, and here's another half truth teller. By the way, I just happened to see his face. That's the other thing. Media,
They're playing both sides.
right, like it.
They're doing a good job of it too.
So the thing is, with Biden being so terrible of a president, so ridiculously terrible, so obvious that his son's a cokehead, so obvious that they're in with China, they make it obvious.
Right,
CNN,
like how are they giving out free crack pipes right now? Like you got
Right,
like it's so
exactly.
fake, it's stupid, and everything is like in your face at this point. Like if you can't see it, it's because you don't want to see it. Like
Right. And then with the media, CNN, how much has CNN blatantly been obvious about how communist they are?
yeah.
What do you think that's going to make people do? They're going to move here. So for a short time during the elections, they did kind of make some people mad, but they saved themselves. And then they started telling half truths. Tucker here is really good at that. He will tell you something and he'll give you parts of it, just like, oh, I'm not going to go on that topic yet. Hold on. I was about to say something, but we're not going to do that because I want to talk to you about it first. But all of these things, all of them are there to make you think that the other side is horrific and that this side is the correct side. And they lie. All of them do. It's literally all of it in on it together. I mean, the literal reason they created the TV was to spread propaganda. Like, I get it. It's an invention. It's a cool invention. There's lots of cool inventions. And a lot of inventions were actually invented way before you think they were. Long before.
They were like made to, it's a like a happy enslavement. Like
Exactly.
oh my god, like that's what all these video games and all the like TV shows, they're making a bunch of entertainment. So now they can get us all like sitting in our house and we're happy to do it and just work, and then our time off is spent barely like binge watching some TV shows or whatever. You're like, that's life for people these days. And a lot of people are just happy with that and going and doing stuff maybe once in a while on weekends if you have time, if you didn't, have a little bit of money left over. It's just not, I don't know, it's slavery for real. Can you get closer? I can't hear you.
I said, literally all these inventions were supposed to be made to make things easier for us, and all it does is make us busybodies. Like we don't even live life anymore. And we go to work, and we go work for these companies that don't respect us. We either work for the government, which we know about the government. We work for companies who basically, I mean, well, for instance, like Walmart. What does Walmart sell? China products.
Yeah, and the food and stuff,
food,
like the food that they feed us is not real food.
No,
it's made to make us function at a lower level. Like the things that they give us, like everywhere you turn around, you're getting chemicals put into your body, whether it's lotions and household cleaners or soaps and medications and different things like that. Like there's a little bit of poison in everything, and it adds up. It dumbs us down.
Fluoride calcifies the pineal gland, which is actually
that is literally what I was thinking when you said that. I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to. I didn't want to go there, but that's what it is. It's like the pineal gland is calcified with all of these different materials. It's not just fluoride. It's a lot of things.
Aluminum is found in the brain. When you do autopsies on individuals with autism or Alzheimer's, they have ridiculously high amounts of aluminum in the brain. And how is aluminum getting in the brain? If when you eat aluminum, if you ingest it, your body cleans it out and it sorts itself out. But you inject it into the blood. I can't remember exactly which ingredient goes around it, but it surrounds the aluminum and it passes the blood-brain barrier and it floods the brain.
Polysorbate 80.
Yes, thank you. That. I always forget which one it is.
And
'cause there's so many
that's
chemicals in them.
also in Tylenol. So they tell you to take Tylenol at the same time, and it like, all
Mhm.
right, yeah, we gotta stop talking about that.
Right.
Please. I'll go all the way into it and then get my stuff shut down. So,
Right. For sure.
but yeah, did you have anything else to show? Because I pulled up one more thing.
I believe I covered it all. Yep. Let me. Sorry, it takes me a second. I always hide the buttons because they drive me nuts. There we go.
All right, so I'm just gonna pull up the full screen of this here. All right, so this is some more of the stuff that like Leland had pointed out. This is a long video here, but if you watch it, you could see around Christmas time he was at a church, and again, like I said, he's like constantly pointing to Jesus around Christmas and emphasizing that, and then the signs and who he is. And then we could look at his penthouse. It's all decked out in Apollo, and there's some Bible verses about that. I'll go more into him because there's a lot more on him alone. But then we see this here where he basically goes against Netanyahu, says F him, and that Leland talks about how that's a prophecy fulfilled. But we're getting into this being kind of long, so I want to end it. But if you want to look at this is under the community tab on Leland Jones' channel, and you can watch this video and listen to how he talks about, someone saying someone's got to save it, but it's not me, it's him, and he points up. But like Jennifer pointed out in the other things, we could see some things to that, and then I think we'll go into some stuff about him eventually, but I think this is enough for now. So we'll talk more later. Do you have anything else to add before we stop?
Not really. The other thing I have to say is if there's something you guys really want to learn about, you really want us to do a video on, like we get word from Yahoo all the time. We're constantly being downloaded things, but if there's something you don't know, let us know. If you want a video on it, we'll try to get some videos done on it. The biggest thing we want to focus on is what we're doing here, prophecy. But we have a lot of other topics that we could go into if you want to. So just let us know. Type it somewhere in the comments. We'll work on it and get some videos up for you, or we might
And it's not
randomly hop on.
it's not just us too. There's other people that we like study with and talk to about these things, and that have different pieces of the stuff. That's why we did this video instead of Pentecost was supposed to be today, but there ended up being a second part to first fruits that we really got to get done. And I want to do that with another sister, and her time is just a different time zone. So we might get that done tonight, hopefully. If not, I'll get it arranged and we'll have it done soon. And I'll have Pentecost done next week, and we'll get the feast finished. We're using the feast to look at how we can see Jesus in the feast and how he fulfilled them, and then linking it to this stuff. If I didn't talk about it much in this video, but a lot of these things are aligned with biblical feasts, either the 7 feasts that we're commanded to keep, or like Purim or Hanukkah, which are added feasts. But the more I look into them, the more I see they're very significant, and they have like types and shadows of the tribulation and things we should look at for the Antichrist, and even like ourselves in the end times churches and stuff like that. So we can get a lot of information just by keeping and looking at these feasts deeper and getting away from Christmas, and we can see how Christmas and Easter are like part of all of this deception to kind of keep us one, distracted, and two, like actively involved in the deception. Because if you're out here screaming keep Christ at Christmas and you're trying to do all that, you really are like actively in the deception, because you can't mix him with these things, especially when you can see all of this stuff and then you see that he has his appointed times. You could see Jesus in them. If Jesus has all these times that we're supposed to keep, they're literally called our appointed times, or his appointed times. That's like an appointment with Jesus, our husband. If you claim to be the bride of Christ, you have to like make your husband's appointments. You would think you wouldn't keep doing things with your exes or whatever. That's how you have to look at it. It's not it is spiritual fornication. So when we look at verses in the New Testament that are talking about fornication and adultery, it's not just sleeping around in a physical way on your literal husband. It's mixing with your spiritual husband too, which is Jesus. So yeah,
Cheating on him with others.
yeah, and we do like
Idolatry.
we were all very guilty of that, and even probably still in some ways we don't even notice, you know?
Right. Yeah, people that come on here and have this information, yeah, we understand we're humans too. And yeah, we have to constantly go to Yahweh and be like, look, if there's something I'm doing wrong, like just tell me. And we get told and we have to correct it. And that's I understand like the delusion's strong. I get it. And I get there's been decades of this story being told to us on literally religion and science. And it's hard. It really is. But we don't have that much time left. Like, I'm not going to get into the repeat cycles, but the point is, it's coming. Whether you like it or not, is we have to let go of our egos. And we all have one. All of us do. It gets me from time to time too. Like, we're not perfect. We're here because we want to help you see it. And what was it? I don't remember which Proverbs verse it is. And I'm not going to say this to say people are fools. I'm not being rude about it, but the Bible's clear. Do not pass off a subject before you've heard it fully. Like, you can't, I know some people are going to they're going to look and see what we're talking about and immediately shut it off. That is, I'm not saying ego as an ego. The ego is essentially a word from psychology. You can look it up, the psychology definition of it, but it's just our tendency to favor what we already know and being unwilling to kind of let go and just hear something out. So there's a lot more to it than that, but I mean, we're all here. We're all going through this, and we just want to help you guys. Like, we see it. We've been shown things we can't unsee, unfortunately. I mean, actually, I don't want to unsee them. It was disturbing, and some of these things messed me up for a while, but I don't want to unsee it. Like, it's truth. I can't not see it.
Yeah, it's like, all right, it's like you see the things and then people tell you, oh no, that's not real, it's, or whatever you saw was fake, and then you go to search out to figure out whether it was real or not, and there's so many confirmations that it's just, this is where we're at, this is what it is, over and over again. You just see more and more, and really, like, these things are just little bits. You can keep going. Keep going.
Right. It's like, oh. So much, but anyway.
Yeah, but we're gonna get off here. So good night.
Yes, goodbye, everybody.